Welcome. You're listening to the Good Girls Don't podcast with Ashley Ray
and Verity Mansfield.
This is the podcast where we smash those rules that we've been taught to follow both as men and women and burn the damn rule book. We're tackling the big issues and the issues nobody wants to talk about, and we'll be fiercely feminist about it.
This podcast is about inspiration, education, compassion, and being the change that you need to see in this world. This podcast is for the trailblazers, the freedom fighters, and the soul igniters, and all the women just like you who are ready to break the good girl rules and be heard.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of Australia and its First Nations people on which this podcast is produced and consumed. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging.
Get ready for the revolution. It's coming to you now. It's coming to you now. We're gonna sing it, revolution. And they'll never bring us down. No, they'll never bring us down.
Verity, it's another episode.
It certainly is. And today was such a gorgeous episode with Jay Kimber, who is a long-time self-driven entrepreneur who lives by her values of authenticity, freedom, and health. And it was such a beautiful conversation.
Oh, heck yeah. And her mission was to bring balance and harmony back to the masculine and feminine energies of the world. And she does this by guiding people to live from the inside out. And she's in service to a new feminist movement, something I find really fascinating because I call myself a raging feminist, which is the liberation of the feminine in both men and women. So that really wonderful energy coming out, and oh, it's a really delicious conversation. Verity, tell me more about it.
But it's a beautiful conversation. And I think one of the important things is about her take on feminism as in, celebrating and, unleashing the feminine energy. And that can happen within, men or women. There's no, like we were saying in the interview, no vagina is required. And it was such a great conversation. And we talked about the importance of surrendering into the feminine and not seeing it as weak, but as tuning into the concepts of pleasure, of flow, and of intuition, and how powerful that can be, and why women need to give themselves permission to feel pleasure. It's something that we don't do as women. We're so busy that we deny ourselves time to be able to just enjoy ourselves and do things that don't have an outcome.
Oh, hell yes.
I know, it was really beautiful. And how we open ourselves up to our greatest creative and intuitive powers that comes actually from within ourselves, not from outside of ourselves. I think that was really beautiful in the conversation as well.
Oh,
and also, why being an angry feminist is not an excuse to devalue ourselves or deny the feminine within ourselves. So many women who claim to be feminists actually step into a very masculine energy, and it's not about being equal to men in terms of energy. Like, I don't want to be a man. I want to be a woman. I love my femininity, and it's something that, has to be equally as important as being, masculine.
Yes, and I'm on Twitter a bit these days, and I see so many, I follow a lot of feminists on Twitter, but a lot of them, they step into it from this place of rage and anger, and genuinely there is a place for that. It helps move things forward. It's a transformational sort of thing to feel, like it allows change to take place. But holy,
you don't want to stay in it,
because it becomes really toxic after a little while if you don't utilize it, or if you don't move it, change it, transform it, it becomes toxic. And it was really awesome to have this conversation in terms of like, okay, well, we have anger is really powerful in being able to move us forward, and we can use it to switch on and feel into our feminine and really evoke that and elicit it from ourselves.
Yeah. And we also talked with Jay, how do we do business with our feminine, and how it gives us less burnout and more creativity, and amazing ideas and even more energy to work within our business. I think that was really beautiful and so important, because so many women in business burn out. And, you know, how do we allow ourselves to have our feminine and our masculine stand side by side so they're not competing with each other? It's not a choice of one or the other, but how we can embrace and utilize both. And I think that was really beautiful and such a powerful conversation.
So stay tuned because we have all of this coming up on the Good Girls Don't podcast in just a tick. Welcome to the Good Girls Don't podcast. Jay Kimber, how you going?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Well, I'm great. I've got some words in. We've had a chuckle. Everything's good. How you doing, Verity?
Good. I'm still laughing.
You guys won't know this listening, but we stuffed up the introduction, so we're still laughing.
So we've been really excited to have Jay with us today because I feel like there's so much beauty that's going to happen in this conversation. And my first conversation with Jay was all about, I guess, how women can create this flow of this feminine energy and tune back into, I guess, liberating their feminine, which is so important, I think, especially in today's conversation. But it's not just about that, is it, for you, Jay? Like, you have there's a whole business side that comes in behind this. Like, there's an actual beautiful purpose for women to embrace their feminine.
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes from direct experience of being in business for 10 years and coming from a very rigid, goal-driven space and really rejecting this flowy, delicious, pleasurable feminine side of myself. So where I'm at now is really back in embracing that. And it's what's driving everything I'm doing at the moment.
And can you tell us how you actually started? Like, why did you feel, or where did you sort of have that realization that the feminine was missing in business?
You know, it came out in my personal relationships. I had this realization that they kept on following the same pattern. And really, when I got down to it, the best way to describe it was, I feel like I've got my penis out and I'm jousting with my partner. Like,
sword fight.
yeah, I was just like always up in arms, never being able to just be like in surrender. And it literally felt like I was the one out there working, getting shit done. And often my partners weren't employed or had some kind of like project home job. And it was really a weird dynamic. And there was something deep in me that just did not feel right. I did not feel deeply happy. Although I was driven with purpose and I had amazing businesses, I just didn't feel deeply good. And I knew something was missing. And when I identified it as flow and softness and feminine, everything from that point, and it took years, started to unravel to find my dance and my softness again.
Wow. Okay. There's so much there. I think we need to unpack and query and question, not in a bad way. I'm just so curious about that. So can you paint a bit more of a picture? I'm really, really curious, like at probably the most masculine point, what things looks like. If we're, I'm not even sure that's the right term to use,
Yeah.
but
Okay. I'll take you back to running my dual business. So it was an organic farm. It was called the Garden Farmers. So I had an acre under cultivation, organic vegetables. And at the same time, I was running at least one other business, but the major part of that was a green juice company, a business making green juice from produce from my farm. So I'm talking like big hours, farming project, business, like warehouse operating, managing people, employing people, and having a relationship. But in all of this, I was working about 80 hours a week. And
Wow.
was, you know, on the farm, driving tractors, managing men, setting up 3 farmers markets a week, selling 500 liters of juice a weekend, you know, like,
whoa,
really,
that's a lot of juice.
like, you know, right? Yeah. And just like with being a boss and all this stuff. And it was hard. Like, my partner at the time was beautiful and he helped me set it up, but I just, like, we weren't making love in beautiful ways. Like, I wasn't surrendering. I was always in my head. I was, you know, controlling every moment because I had so much to do, right? And like, I just felt, you could probably say this was my most masculine moment, as in so much in my head, so goal driven, and I wasn't being driven by my intuition or my flow or pleasure. I was not having much pleasure. So yeah, that would be my most masculine time.
Wow. Okay. So I'm also kind of picturing that this might have been quite data driven as well. Like, a lot of numbers, like, you know, finance, as well as other bits and bobs that are going to go along with running a business like that as well.
Totally, watching all the numbers and working with the bookkeeper and all of that, and doing scary things like actually employing someone on the books and like paying superannuation and going through all this like official stuff and being in the system and just fully letting myself go there because I wanted to experience it. But it was it was a bit scary and a big deal and a lot of like head stuff going on, that's for sure.
That's amazing. So I'm not even sure like how to ask the next lot of questions because there's so much in my head I want to ask you about now.
Good.
I just feel like I need to do like a psychic transfer or something.
How did you step out of it? Like, how do you get to the point where you go, okay, hang on a second, like this needs to change? And then, like, did you have to restructure your entire business, or did you end up shutting that business down and starting something else? Like, what was the turning point?
Very good question. I mean, essentially I needed a holiday. That was quite obvious.
I imagine you probably needed a good holiday, yeah.
So that was 3 years without a holiday. You know, at the same time, I would say my life is a holiday. I'm living my dream. I'm working outside. I'm running farmers markets. You know, it was amazing. I was selling green juice for a living. Like, that's not a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
So in many ways, I was embodying living a purpose, like a very, very high integrity purpose. And I can't put that down at all. I'm very, very happy about that. But I needed a holiday. So I booked a 3-week holiday in the middle of winter to Hawaii to go and stay with some friends. And, you know, that was the start of it. I took 3 weeks off and I let my business run for 3 weeks. And that 3 weeks turned into 5 weeks because I fell in love. At this point, I wasn't with the past partner. I fell in love with one of my friends on the island, and I was like, I'm staying 2 extra weeks. This is amazing. I'm fully sinking in. I would get lost as he would like drive me around, and I'd started to relax and explore this beautiful island and waterfalls and swimming with turtles. And it's like, it feels really good. You know, I was writing again and just relaxing. And so that was the starting point. And then I actually made a very big decision. I came back home and I went, all right, business, are you ready to grow up? Because I want to go back to Hawaii. So I came back home, and in 6 weeks, I got my business to a point where there was managers in place. It was running itself. The farm manager stepped up more hours, and I just sorted it out. And so then I went back to Hawaii for 6 months.
Wow.
And lived in Hawaii, running my business from afar. Taking a very tiny income. I had savings, so I just knew it was just time, giving myself time to go and do that. So the business ran itself, and I was in Hawaii, and in that 6 months, I had all this time. You know, I wasn't working during the day, so I started to create again and plan more businesses, but more creative ones, like washable menstrual pads. Like I used to have a business making washable menstrual pads, and just like rebirthing and re-looking at more creative ways that I could be and bring myself back into creation mode. Because obviously back home, I was just in full get shit done mode. And so, yeah, I guess that started how it started to continue to sink in through practicing letting myself relax and create.
Wow.
And it's so hard, isn't it? Like, I remember taking, I think, only 5 days off last year, and we just popped over to Bali for 5 days. And I remember sitting by the pool, and I had a book with me, and I was staring at the book, and in my head, I'm like, just pick it up, 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 pick it up. And this went on for like 15 minutes. I'm not kidding. Of me staring at this book, and I couldn't bring myself to pick it up and relax. And I kind of realized that, you know, as women, sometimes we get so caught up in the busyness of life, or maybe we're not running our businesses by, you know, our feminine values and our feminine energy. And so when it comes time to relax, we physically can't.
Our worth is still on our achievements, and it's so hard to just like find worth in relaxing.
Yeah, and just being.
If your worth's tied to, you know, a number, you know, like how much you're able to produce or how much money you make, which is especially common in business, it's incredibly difficult to try and relax.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did eventually pick the book up. It's fine.
Yeah, that's my thing, isn't it? You get there in the end.
But you know what I think is really amazing about what you've just said there, Jay, is it sounds like not only was it the change of environment that was really critical, that was really beautiful for you, but it also sounds like, okay, once those needs were taken care of, you know, making sure that you had the stuff in place to really relax, you could, like, there's that beautiful thing that happens where it's like once those really immediate things that are right in front of us are taken care of, oh my God, we can breathe.
Right.
I think that's really incredible that you did that, because not everyone can or does.
That's it. I was very lucky to be able to do that. And what I do now is I actually teach people or hold space for mostly women to create that in their day-to-day life, right? Because you can't always go on a 3-week holiday, let alone 6-month escape, relaxing on an island holiday.
But that's what we were all promised when we started business.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. I think, yes, hold that vision and you will create that. Because I do believe you can create that. But for sure, the importance is in balancing it within your day-to-day. And that's where I'm more at now, you know. It feels amazing.
I'm really curious what that looks like and means. Like, you talked a lot about like bringing feminine values into day-to-day life and into business, but what does that mean?
Yeah, so I think a bit of context here around what I was doing before farming is good. I was a dancer, and I wanted to be a dancer. Like, it felt great in my body. I know that naturally, you know, I look beautiful when I dance, and it feels natural when I dance. And I left that because it felt like it wasn't good enough. I wasn't going to change the world enough. I wasn't going to inspire enough. And so I went to do organic farming, which is very much like, you know, the agricultural system is messed up. Let's save the world through bringing back small scale organic farming and getting into our yards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what's happened now is a redistribution of worth back into so this feminine energy, which is less driven, more just like able to be whatever it needs to be in the moment. So right now I make time for dance. And yeah, the way this came around was actually through a sexual awakening, you know, like through a sexual experience that I had called in to reconnect me with my womb, to reconnect me with the deep pleasure of my body, which I had let go of for so long. I had let go of it so much that I had created a vaginal like disease that had kind of, you know, like, it wasn't a disease, it was like thrush, but I had that so chronically that I wasn't even able to experience like sexual pleasure. So through a calling in of sexual pleasure and a reconnection with my sexuality, I then had beautiful experiences that went, wow, this power of pleasure and surrender is like massive, and it is creative, and it's almost like I've got another brain in my womb. And I actually felt the reality of that. And so, as crazy and amazing as all that sounds, like, it was a reality for what I went through last year. And from that place, I started dancing again. It was like she just went, nah, no more driving right now. You're putting on some music and you're moving your body with no agenda, with nothing.
No purpose, it's
nothing.
just play.
Yes, it's play. Yeah, and unpredictability and crazy and wild and all the things. And I started to record myself dancing, because I'd never really seen myself dance before. People would tell me that it was beautiful to watch me dance, and I was like, oh, that's nice, you know, I'd like to see it one day. And I just had never really seen it. And so then I started to film myself dancing, and I would watch it back, and I started to cultivate this ability to see this side of myself that I had rejected for so long, this beauty, this flow.
Wow. I actually watched you dancing on one of your videos, and it really is. It's so, what's the word? When you're mesmerizing. And it's so beautiful, and there's something so like that just pulls you in. And I was just saying to Ash before, like, we don't move like this as women anymore. We've lost this way of being able to flow that energy through our bodies like that. We're so often, I feel, especially as women, and as, you know, we have our own businesses or we're working for other people, and you know, in relationships, and we might have children, and we've got to do food shopping, we've got to maintain houses. There's all these to do that we don't spend time, like you said, cultivating that beautiful feminine energy in just being and in creating, and like you said, in pleasure. And I know one really beautiful friend of mine at the moment who she's going through a divorce, and she's found this book about experiencing pleasure again, and the empowerment that is in pleasure, and just that realization that she hasn't tuned into her pleasure for such a long time. And it's so powerful in order for us, I guess, to embrace and bring back that beautiful flow of feminine energy.
Yeah.
I want to raise my hand because I have a question. I'm curious about the difference between how you experienced this kind of pleasure from when you were, for lack of a better term, in the masculine as to when you were in the feminine. Like, was it a whole different ball game? Were they similar or I'm just curious.
In sexuality and sex.
Yeah, like when you were talking about, this wonderful awakening that you've had and the difference as to how you feel and experience your body now, is it very different to how that was before?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm asking a really dumb question.
No, and I will go as deep as you want to go to. It's not something I love, like diving in as well. So if you have a question that comes up after what I say now, go for it. Go deep. It's fine. I definitely now the pleasure. I don't always like it to be this way because it can be distracting. But I can walk around feeling like I'm on the edge of an orgasm the whole time, and so that's something that you kind of have to get used to and choose, because it's like a lot of pleasure just to walk around like, wow, I'm feeling, but it's not like right down low. It's like in my womb space. So the second chakra, that creative center. And I work a lot in dance, and what I teach from this space, like the womb space where your cervix is, and that like can feel pleasure all day, every day, if you allow it to. And then that energy you can bring up and use as creative energy and create things, create your mood, create yourself how you sort of want to be, and you be in mastery from this place of pleasure. So for me, it's very different from where I was a few years ago, where I literally felt nothing, like down there during the day. It was
wow.
nothing.
This is so beautiful, because I hear so many women saying that they are exhausted and they don't have energy. And I'm starting to think, is this because we're told that our energy comes from what we eat and not from being able to actually cultivate it from within ourselves, like in that womb space?
Yes, yeah. And I tell you, talk to anybody that knows me well, I'm freaking too much energy. Like sometimes and I have so many business ideas. I literally wish I had a line of women to just be like, give me a business idea. I'd be like, here.
Take a number. I'll hand you an idea.
Like,
I love it.
And I got to stop trying to do them all. So that's
So why is it okay? Obviously, this was crucial for you to have this kind of awakening and this complete like 180 on how and where your energy was coming from.
Yeah.
But what does this mean for other people, and why is it like? Is it important for other people? Should we all be aiming for this?
I think that's a very good question. I think, we all have such different paths and so many different things to learn, that for some women and men, this is important work to do. And for some, maybe not. Some may be already feeling this so naturally and so flowy that it's just like, oh yeah, it's a given. And so then this work isn't important for them. Some, I don't think it's important for everybody. Like, I don't think anything is important for everybody. But the one beautiful thing that I experienced the other day was, there was one woman who's a friend of mine, or an acquaintance of mine, and online she was getting very triggered about this work. And she was like, I don't want to be sexy for men. Like, I don't want to be sexy. And she was getting really, because I was talking about, feeling sexy and beautiful and being put in, like being in that pleasure. And she was triggered by it and brought up that, she's a proud feminist and she doesn't want to be sexy for men. And I was like, oh, that's, okay, an interesting perspective. And she was brave enough to come in and do my dance course. Yeah, she was brave enough to come in and do my dance course because, you know, I thought maybe that's fine, it's not for you, you know, you don't need to be like that, or do this work. And she's come in and she's just woken up. She's just like, wow, she's like, I've even put on, she said, I put on a little bit of weight, but I just feel so sexy and my hair is longer. And she's like, Jay, I've never felt like this before. That. So she thought maybe it was something she wanted to reject and not have, and now it's actually something that she's integrating. So I think, no, not for everybody, but sometimes even when you think it's not something that you want, it can be because it's what you need or something like that.
Yeah. And I think so often there's like, we have these preconceived ideas, like her saying, I don't want to feel sexy for men. And really it's about feeling sexy for yourself.
Yes, that's
and when we're actually in a really sort of resourceful relationship, when we're in our feminine, it so feeds the masculine. Like they're just literally, they can pick up that feminine energy and they absolutely love it. And you know, they sort of really step into their masculine to support that feminine. Like it can be a really, really beautiful sort of relationship between two people that know how to use their energies and to, I guess, support and collaborate and co-create with each other. And not co-create as in children, but co-create as in a life. Yeah, it's really beautiful. So how do you then see your feminine values in terms of business? Like why are they so useful and crucial for women who are creating businesses?
It's a good question. I feel that if you're able to work more from your feminine inside of your business, you're going to have less burnout.
Yeah.
And you're going
It's always a good thing.
just create time. Yeah. And if that's the only thing, that's enough. But I feel that also to be bringing fem into business, you have an extra element of creativity. Like there's just like a magic that comes in, right? For me, it's a magic. So if I'm feeling in my head and I put some music on and dance and then watch myself dance, if I'm feeling creatively stuck or at a point where I'm like, I'm just driving myself a little bit crazy, I'll dance and watch it. And usually for me, the next idea or the next step will pop in. So I don't actually mind it. I don't actually think it from my mind. It comes from a different place. And so the course that I have, I actually amazed that I didn't actually create it from my mind at all. And that this is for me the value of the feminine in business. It came purely from a place that was feeling creativity, pure connection to another thing, you know. But then to bring that into partnership with the masculine is so important, because then you got to get the stuff done, right? And goals, getting stuff done needs to be standing side by side with the femme.
Absolutely. Oh, it's like word porn in my ears.
But it's a really interesting thing though, isn't it? Because it's like there's almost a duality to it where like we know when we're in our feminine we get what that feels like, and when we're in our masculine we get what that feels like. But it can be so hard to, as you say, bring them together, have them stand side by side. Like so often it feels in society there's a choice.
It's one or the other. It's never both.
Yes. This is like the biggest thing. This is the biggest conversation with women in business right now, right? I feel, you know, okay, cool. Yes. Liberate your feminine, liberate it, bring it out, let it be flowy. But then people are like, nothing happens, or, you know, nothing gets done, or they think they are, but it's just an unhealthy masculine doing stuff and not making room for the feminine energy. And so literally I talk about it like you want your masculine to container things. So he sets up the day, he gets the calendar out and he goes 9 a.m. is this, and then we finish at 10 a.m. and then from 11 till 12 you've got free play, you know, or like free, and in that container then the feminine can start to feel safe to dance for an hour or play. So it's a feminine expression of still within the masculine getting stuff done for business. And it's, sorry, go on. I was going to say, like in anything that I teach around feminine energy, I now know that I have to teach about masculine energy, or else the feminine energy by default doesn't get enough time, because you need need a healthy masculine to schedule in time for the feminine to be free and flowy if it's not something that you've practiced yet. So you have to set time aside to practice what it feels like to surrender. Take yourself on a holiday, or set 2 hours aside on a Sunday morning just for yourself to self-pleasure, or go for a walk or dance or whatever it is.
Wow.
So do you feel like stepping into our feminine is something we need to do on, like, create that space on a daily basis? Because I know so many women who, like, they'll be in business and they'll be every single morning, it's like, I've got to get this done. And there's that choice of, do I take time to kind of set myself up energetically for the day, like maybe being in the feminine, versus, but I don't have time, I don't have this, I've got to get this done, I've got to get that done. And it's almost like a fear of letting go in order to be in their feminine. And I don't know whether that's because we've been told by society it's a waste of time, and if we're not doing something, we're not doing anything of work, contributing. Where does this fear, do you think, come from?
It's just from what we've practiced, and definitely what you said, society saying, you know, where's the worth? What are you doing? What are you achieving? You know, I really think we've just practiced that so much, literally from primary school, getting up and going to school, you know, and being put into these like goal-based things that we had to achieve. And so we're just so anchored into that being what's most important. And I think, yes, ideally, yes, definitely, ideally, feminine comes in every single day as much as masculine. So as much as you get stuff done, you play, you flow, you create your own pleasure. And they can happen at the same time. They start to happen more and more at the same time. But I'm still with you. Like, I think even this morning, I had that sort of feeling again come in, like, oh, I can't do that because I got to get stuff done. And it was like, still that little bit of fear or that programming coming in, like I have to achieve or else X. But one of the things that I do practice most mornings is breast massage. And even just that 5 minutes of getting my essential oils on my naked chest and just rubbing them, it connects my heart down to my sexuality and puts me into my body and gives me like 5 minutes. I also, on an ideal morning, I'm doing yoga and journaling as well. But just that 5-minute breast massage is so beautiful. And for me, that can set my day. And for others that do it, set their day very differently, just to honor that first. And then, you know, whatever morning ritual you have, and then go from there.
That's amazing. Genuinely, I mean, we've all seen those articles about women in business and how they start their day for success, like how they set everything up. And it's usually do the journaling, do the yoga, but it's always like done as a job. Like those are jobs that you have to do. Like it's just another item on another to-do list. You're not actually present for it. I've never heard anyone say, I take the time and I give myself a breast massage with beautiful essential oils. Like that's a real nice breath of fresh air.
Thanks. Yeah, it's beautiful. For me, it's a breath of fresh air too. You know, it's been a while that I've been doing it, and it will go in and out. This is the thing with practice and being understanding and self-forgiving that you've grown up with this certain thing that the whole of society has practiced, to sometimes when you slip off and forget the breast massage, you just be like, oh, that makes sense that I've forgotten that. I'm back in that old thing. Come back, take some time, and then just turn yourself on a little bit and be all delicious. And then, yeah, it's just magic.
Oh
It's
my
so
God.
gorgeous. Yeah, I think pleasure as well is such an important part of the feminine. Like women are literally designed to receive pleasure, and yet it's something that we have been denied, like societally. You know, we talk about sex, and sex so often in society, you know, starts with a man's erection, finishes with his ejaculation. There's no room for pleasing, like the pleasure of woman, you know, in the traditional story. But yet as well, like even without sex, we still, I find like so many women find it so hard to reconnect to that pleasure, whether it's taking the time to learn, you know, pottery or drawing or, you know, just going for walks and breathing in the air. Or like, it's so interesting when I've heard so many women, especially because I do a lot of relationship coaching, and there's a lot of women who talk about, you know, they'll get up in the morning, they get the kids up, they make everyone's, you know, lunches, including the husbands. They go to work, husband goes to work. Oh, they've also dropped the kids off at school. Then go to work. Then they come home, pick the kids up. You know, then they're sort of like getting the kids' homework done, and then they're doing, you know, dinner, and then they're bathing the kids. By that time, hubby's come home and he's having a beer on the couch, or he's gone for a cycle with his mates, or he's gone to play basketball, or he's had a round of golf. And she's still doing. And then they go home, go to bed, he wants sex, and she's like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm exhausted. And it's such a common story. And I just see so many women that don't make space for pleasure. And I don't think that it's their husbands have turned around and said, no,
Right.
you can't do this. It's in our heads.
Yeah.
A
mission.
And it's really interesting that I think this is a story that we've also been telling ourselves. And now that we do have the freedom to create space for pleasure, we don't know how.
Yes. Yeah. I'm 100% with you there. And one of the biggest things for me is instilling this permission into the woman. Woman or man, doesn't matter, but I guess in this case, women, give yourself permission to make time for your pleasure, to make time for looking after yourself. Like, that is just, you have permission. And I think it's just that's not instilled in society. Where is the big loud thing saying, mamas, you have permission to look after yourself? Like, I'm not a mum myself, but I've seen many mums around me get all the guilts. They just get so guilty when they're looking after themselves first.
Yeah.
Like an hour, right? And yeah, in the women that I work with, the biggest thing they get out of it is learning to give themselves permission, and then getting their own masculine to be able to make space, because he has to put it into the schedule. He has to container that space and protect that space for her to be able to do what she needs to do to get back to pleasure, to get back to her body, and yeah, to feel herself again, to feel her full self again.
Yeah, I love that.
The grading of get shit done mode and delicious mode.
I love this. I feel like it's I want to hail back to something you said earlier, where you had a friend who was pretty staunch in her beliefs and didn't want to be sexy for men. Just going to put this out there. Might get some hate mail for it, but whatever. I find that there's like a huge portion of people who call themselves feminists, but they're very angry. And that's fine. Rage is good. It can be.
And we, you know, and women have a right to be angry with how things have been.
Right.
So we do get that.
We absolutely do, but that's not a reason to devalue yourself.
Wow. So on the same page, I literally made a video about this yesterday, and it was talking about, the traditional feminist movement, and how whenever I spoke to feminists, I felt this anger, like I felt this hardness, and I'd always be like, I don't like that feminist movement. Like, as a young kid, like even young, I'm talking like young, and as I grew up, sort of understanding, yeah, cool, wow, I'm so grateful for what they did. You know, that whole women's liberation movement was amazing. Thank you for giving us equal rights. But I then the whole idea of, I don't want to be equal to a man, though, we've sort of become like a little bit very now masculine. And so I see now, not just like everywhere around me, this new feminist movement, but it's not a liberation of women, it's a liberation of the feminine. And it's like, and it's not anger, it's like celebration. We're celebrating joy and passion and pleasure. The feminine finally gets to come out. And yes, we have voting rights, and yes, we can have equal pay to men, and we have equal opportunity now in so many ways. It's not perfect, but we're doing amazing, and we're in joy and pleasure. And that's the shift now. This is, I don't like to use the word true feminist movement, but it's truly the feminine now coming out and standing next to the masculine. And it gets me juicy. So I feel I resonate with, the anger that you're talking about.
Yeah, I find I fully agree with what you've said, but I also find like anger definitely has a place. Like, it is useful. We can use it for some really good things. It's how we got the right to vote, the right for different things over time, and it's still very useful. But it's definitely not a reason to deny yourself your own needs.
But I think that's the thing, isn't it? Staying in our anger is not resourceful. Like, feeling the anger come up, and then it's like, okay, why do I feel this way? What is it that I can change? And for me, I always feel like anger rises when our values are being crossed and something deep within us is demanding change.
Yeah.
And we can do that in so many ways. It doesn't, like, we can feel that anger. Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, like, you know, I know what it is I want to change. And then I can move into that change with joy and with celebration and with a sense of wanting to inspire and motivate, instead of wanting to punish or berate or destroy. Like, we can come from it like with completely different, I guess, energy. And, you know, what you were saying before is so beautiful. Like, I don't want to be a man. I'm not interested in competing with men. I don't need to, like you so beautifully said, need to grow a penis and joust with my partner. And there's times even in my relationship, I'll say that to my partner, I'm not here to compete with you. This isn't a competition. And there really is, I think, such beautiful space. And I think those initial stages of feminism were very much needed, because people just were not listening to women, and that's why they rose and got so angry. They had to meet men at a level that men could understand. But I think as men are now turning around and saying, well, hang on, you know, we're not happy either. More of us are committing suicide than we ever have before. This system hasn't even working for us, this patriarchy.
Right.
And the men are starting to go, oh, hang on, maybe we didn't get it completely right. Maybe there is something in society, not as men, but as a society, something's not quite right here. Maybe there is a better place for women. Maybe we should listen to what women have to say. Maybe they're not just hysterical.
What?
And, you know, just need a good dicking or an orgasm to get over it. You know what I mean? Because you hear it all the time.
Excuse me, this is news to me.
Yeah. But it's like this kind of like, wow, okay. And as men are starting to listen, women don't have to be so angry. We don't have to meet them at a level of violence or physicality. As you know, we don't have to step into that toxic male energy to meet them anymore. And I think as we step into our divine feminine, we're realizing as women that we've had this power all the time. We chose to also opt out of it.
Yep. Amazing.
I got nothing to say. It's just like you've just said it.
But I look back at my youth and I miss that sensuality. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. I used to be so sensual, and it wasn't that I dressed a certain way. Like, I don't remember specifically dressing a certain way, but I remember my friends just saying, even my girlfriends were like, you're just too damn sensual. They're like, it's not a sexiness as such, it's a sensuality, and I envy it. And I did always get a lot of male attention. And then now I think, oh my God, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm busy doing this, I'm busy doing that. I'm like, fuck, where did that sensuality go? That it was such a different way of experiencing the world. And I am tuning more into it. And I notice when I do, I notice the changes it makes. I notice the impact. I notice when other people look up that I'm more alive and that it has an impact on other people. And I love that. But it is something I feel like we lose as women, and then that we need to somehow regain back. Which is why I so fell in love with our conversation and the work that you do with dance, and this idea of being able to move that maybe even stagnant energy through our body, so it opens us up more, it opens our heart up, it opens our sacral chakra up, and allows that energy to flow through us instead of, I don't know, just residing and going stagnant, and like you said, maybe, you know, coming out in terms of disease or dysfunction.
Right. Yeah, often it does. And there's so many women have these reproductive disorders. There's so many different kinds, you know, down there.
Yeah.
Most women I meet have something going, whether it's as full on as endometriosis, or whether it's just heavy periods, painful periods. It's all part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Connected. And
so what about men then, Jay? How, like, do you also, because I think you said as well that you do work with men, do you help men to embrace their feminine energy, or?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm not gender-based. I'm in service of feminine, and to be in service of feminine also means to cultivate masculine in a healthy way. So absolutely, I have a lot of beautiful men in my community, and I started to hear a lot, you know, what's with all these women's circles, and what about me? You know, I want to move like this, and I want to dance like you. And that was vulnerable for them to say that, you know, to come and be like, I feel something deep in me that wants to feel like you look when you dance. And I mean, that's an honor, but then also just to be able to receive that and be like, you know what, men also need to practice their feminine and express that, to be in deeper understanding of us as women and our feminine. It's not their major essence, you know, it's not the place from which they're going to be operating from mostly, but it's important for them to be welcome there. And so, yeah, I welcome men in my live events and online stuff and in conversation. And when I was doing more private coaching, I also coach men. And yeah, I think it's so important to include them.
It really is. And I think that's something that Ash and I have always been really vocal about, is including men in conversation. And, you know, like, as much as we have these beautiful circles of women coming together, I've dated a lot in the last 8 years as a single parent, and just hearing so many men, like, as they're listening to what I talk about and how I work with women, I hear it all the time. What about us? What about us? And there's that feeling of getting left behind, of being rejected, of not being worthy, because of that feeling of being left behind. And it's so important to include men. And, you know, Ash and I are both very big supporters that, as, you know, women are listening to these conversations on our podcast, that they take that conversation back home. And that they speak to their men folk, they speak to their partners, they speak to their sons, they speak to their uncles, they speak to their fathers, like, to include them in these conversations, no matter how weird it might be, or, you know, sometimes, that female shit that, you know, they like to refer to it as. But it is so important to create that space that they can become curious, and they feel safe enough to be allowed into the women's world, and to gain from it, and to help nurture them so that they can embrace their feminine, so they see that it's a safe space to be in, as they also unpack their own feminine energy, and they're okay with their emotions, and to feel things and to express themselves in really beautiful ways, because men have been taught to do anything but that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, so important.
That's huge. Just saying. I think sometimes as well, it's just for the guys that, you know, maybe are a little bit caught up in their own misogyny and stuff like that. It's sometimes just planting the seed. Just planting the seed and letting it might not happen straight away. And it's just letting it, okay, really kind of mushy metaphor, but letting it grow.
Yeah,
I love it.
Just water it from time to time.
Yeah, but that's been one of the things, like, in my relationship with my partner, is having, like, he was not used to any of these conversations before we met, and he was kind of like, oh my God, what the hell? What do you mean white privileged male? What are you saying that I am? And he really had to face his white male privilege, and he did it in such a really beautiful way. And it's a process. Like, it's not like he's dealt with it and he's doesn't have that privilege. He'll always have white male privilege. He's he's male, he's privileged because of that.
He's got the membership card.
he's got the penis. But it's, you know, he's starting to understand it more, and he's starting to understand how he shows up in the world, how he's allowed to show up in the world, how he's been dictated to show up in the world, how he's been programmed to show up in the world, and how it has an impact on others. And that's a really beautiful process to continue to watch unfold. And when something happens and I'm like, okay, dude, like, that probably wasn't your best move, you know, that it's a safe space for him to look at it and go, oh shit, was I just doing that white male privilege bullshit thing again? And it's not like he's getting reprimanded or berated or pushed down or squashed or disrespected or told off like a naughty child. It's just, you know, being able to hold that mirror up so that they can safely, I guess, choose differently, you know, the next day, that they can kind of show up in a slightly different way than they did the day before, that they can start to make more conscious decisions of how they see themselves and how the world wants to see them, and the impact that they have, the legacy that they actually can create, to make this world such a much more of a beautiful place for everybody.
Sounds like he's owning it. He's really leaning into that well.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. But I think that's what's so important about your work as well, that as we allow women the safe space to open up and express their feminine, that they can take that back, you know, into their homes and back into their lives and include their men in that. And, you know, that's what I love about your work, is that it's not gender biased. You don't have to just have a vagina in order to be worthy of stepping into the feminine or experiencing the feminine.
Oh, I like that line. No vagina required.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
New tagline.
Yeah, I should put that.
We put that on a t-shirt.
It's actually brilliant.
So just tell us a bit more. You've got 2 programs going at the moment. You have your Fem Fire, and you also have another program called She Blooms.
She Blooms. Okay, yeah. So She Blooms is in the works. I'm deciding still whether that's a high level like mentorship for women that want to just dive deep, get juicy, and launch a fem-based business with healthy masculine to drive it, or whether it's a membership kind of deal. So I'm still looking at that one. That's beautiful. And She Blooms comes from a seed to bloom journey that I do in person.
Oh my God, we got the metaphor right.
Yes, I know, right?
Oh my God.
When you said it, I was like, you're on it. Yeah, so I will guide people through like a 2-hour dance journey in person, and literally take them from, you know, being on the ground and helping them get into their body safely. And if they're not used to movement, I can still, you know, get inside of them, get them inside of their bodies, and then get them moving to the point of like free abandoned movement towards the end of the dance journey. So that's a seed to bloom journey. And that comes from Buto, which is a Japanese movement theatre after the war. It came out to help people manage psychologically after the bombs. So that's a beautiful like transformational process. So She Blooms is coming, and I'm really excited about it. Not yet running, but Fem Fire is, yeah, just such a beautiful thing that fell out of me. I'll tell the backstory quickly because I think it's just super sexy. When I was having like all this sexual bubbling and awakening and pleasure inside of my body, and finding my womb and finding my brain down there, I had this experience where I like made love to myself, where it was like literally, you know how we're talking about having, you know, being in the feminine and being in the masculine and being in the feminine and trying to find this balance. And eventually, I believe, and I've experienced, that we can live in this state where we have both going at the same time. And I've only experienced it this one time where it was actually in intimacy with myself, just like, it wasn't even like I was masturbating or anything. It just turned into me grabbing my arm and like pinning it down and surrendering, and all this sexual beautiful energy was flowing through my body, and my womb was turned on. It was like, I am embodying masculine, like that kind of penetrating beautiful energy, and embodying the surrender energy at the same time. And it was like the pleasure, I can't even describe it. Like it was like my womb was on fire, like 1,000 suns, and it was burning, and the pleasure was just like out of this world. And I was like, there's like this fire inside of me now that activated it further into this like, oh my gosh, what is this power to be able to surrender. The power of the feminine is deep surrender, and we think it's weak, or I used to believe it was weak and worthless, and now I've actually felt it is infinite power. It is nature. It is, you know, so expansive we can't even hold it. It wants to explode out of us. And from this space I had all these beautiful experiences, but basically I had this download of this course, and it was called Fem Fire, the fire of the feminine. Let's really start to like activate her and bring her into full embodiment and into full power. And so this course came through dance, and 4 weeks of it are movement based. starting from finding your center of gravity and finding your sexual center and turning it on and starting to become very present with what's inside of you and feeling your subtle energies and learning to feel that inside yourself feeling, you know, that subtle feeling, and letting that be the thing that moves you in dance first through the course. This subtle, beautiful force is the thing that moves you. And then we move up to the hips, and then we bring that up through the heart. And so our whole chest is an expression. And then it goes into what's your uniqueness, your spark. Everybody has a spark, and we're always sparking each other and setting each other on fire and walking each other home. And so the first 4 weeks are movement based until, you know, in the 4th week, you're really exploring like, this juicy, who are you and how does your body want to move freely, driven from this feminine space. And then the last 2 weeks of filming yourself, like seeing yourself in this vulnerable surrender place that's full of power and fire, filming it back, and just getting used to seeing yourself, hearing your voice, sharing that in the Facebook group. And then the final week is being seen, like letting yourself come into bloom and be set on fire and letting the world see you on fire. And it's just, you know, that all came from, like I said, doesn't come from my mind. It came from something the feminine literally like oozed out of me and wanted to create. And I call it a dance course, but it's so much more than dance. And women that come in like, oh, whoa, this is so much more than I expected. We go into Joe Dispenza's work on, you know, like quantum physics and amazing, you know, manifestation techniques and stuff like that. Living as if you already are and being who you want to be and not waiting for it to happen before you can feel the things. And so that's super close to my heart. It's fresh, like it's just still birthing, you know, it's still in creation. It's run with 35 women already. Actually, one man came through as well in that one.
Ooh.
And just going to the public. I'm just taking it to the public now. So yeah, it's juicy.
That sounds incredible. And I think there's so much in there, like in terms of dance for women, like dance has been used culturally, like the ancient times, you know, so powerfully. And I think there's something so beautiful in that in terms of, you know, coming back to our roots as women and, you know, coming back to the roots of the feminine again. It just sounds absolutely delicious. Like, I'm like, okay, when are we signing up, Ashley? But I used to dance when I was younger, and it was a really sort of beautiful time where I really felt in my body, and I felt like I had, I don't want to say power and control in my body, like in a very, not in a masculine way, but in a really beautiful feminine way. Like my body felt powerful. The way that I moved felt powerful. And I'll never forget this man giving a speech about what men wanted from women. And he made this comment, like, sometimes it's just the way she moves.
Wow.
That completely has him holding his breath and captivated by her. And she could just be lifting up, you know, a teacup to her mouth. And he's just in awe of that one movement.
Oh, yes,
it is. I think it's just those little things. And it's like those times when you catch yourself, or you don't catch yourself, it's like your partner catches you. Like you'll be doing something and he'll be like, babe, and you're like, what? And it can seem so random. You're like, I just need to tell you that I love you right now. Oh. And you're like, I haven't done anything. And they're like, you don't have to. And we don't get it. For them, it's like seeing that small movement of some way that we move our bodies or the way that we express ourselves in movement, and it just literally sweeps a man off his feet or brings him to his knees.
I just totally had the best picture of like,
but not in a sexual way. Do you know what
Cinderella
I mean?
scooping up the prince at the end of the movie.
Yeah, and putting his shoes back on his foot.
I got you, babe.
Yeah, I got you, babe. Yeah. But I think as women, we forget the power within ourselves. And so what you're doing, it just sounds so beautiful and so needed in this world. So thank you so much for jumping on with us this morning and sharing the work that you do and highlighting how important it is as women to really step into our feminine and the way that we can really embrace it and bring it out of ourselves and express it. And like I said, to be seen and witnessed in our feminine and honored for it. That is so powerful.
It is so powerful. And that's the thing, like, it's easy as well. It's just about making time, like that breast massage in the morning, or just turning on some music and giving yourself at least 10 minutes just to move. And then you've done it. You've taken that time and you've started the practice, and that's it.
I'm so gonna try this.
Actually, no, I'll be texting each other tomorrow morning.
That's probably exactly what's gonna happen. We'll text each other tomorrow, like, oh my god.
But actually, no, our 3 hours apart, so she'll be texting me. I'll probably still be asleep.
It's fine. I'll go first then.
That's how close we are.
Thank you
so much, Jay.
Oh, it was so much fun. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, if you want to continue this conversation, head over to our Facebook page and be part of the revolution. You can find us at Good Girls Don't Podcast on Facebook. Please note we cannot create change alone. Your support, likes, comments, shares, and iTunes reviews help us to give a voice to the insanely inspirational women and the controversial issues that we discuss.
If you'd like to be a part of our podcast, or if you have an issue that you have a burning desire for us to bring into the light, please contact us. With fierceness, Ashley
And Verity.
Get ready for the revolution.